Skap, I take it it's no part of your argument because the reason I love that argument is because LeBron James has changed basketball for the worse, and that's why again I think arguing him versus Jordan is kind of silly and a joke. But Skap, I'll let you respond.
Yeah, let's do this then, guys. Let's just make the conversation be about cultural impact or, societal impact or, what kind of leaders they were. But let's look, because you guys talked about Kobe's character and him as a leader as well yesterday. I listened to your entire segment. So let's make the conversation about that. But we're essentially arguing semantics here. If we're talking about who is the best basketball player that has ever lived, who was the best, who presented the best tangible on-court product that has ever existed?
Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson, it could be argued that Allen Iverson is the best basketball player who ever lived because of what he was able to do with so little, his impact individually on the game. But that's not how basketball works, right? Basketball works in a different way than just can one guy get past one guy. We like to think that it's about just that singular ability. I had to at some point guard Vladimir Radmanovic, right? That guy was effectively unstoppable because he didn't care, right? He would shoot from anywhere. So that made him a great individual basketball player, but he didn't fit within the framework of the team. So this, to me, is such a strange argument because it takes 5 players, and it's about who's able to energize the people around him, who's able to capture people's imagination. I will admit that, of course, because Kobe Bryant died, he has had a change in the perception of him. But from my perspective, as somebody who was in this world for so long, it becomes a little bit diminishing to just focus on one player's ability and think about how they would work in a one-on-one game against everybody in history.
Okay, let's apply it to what he did for his teams, though, and his level of team success. When you look at the fact that he won 5 NBA championships, he never had more than one All-Star on any of those 5 teams. If you want to say that Shaquille O'Neal was as dominant or more dominant than any other all-time great players, second their running mate or their co-teammate or whatever dynamic you want to suggest existed between Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant. I would present this though. Look at every other top 10 to 15 all-time player that exists on any list that you guys want to build up here. No one won more challenging championships than Kobe Bryant either, though. He won 2 championships in a row and went to 3 consecutively against a field of playoff contenders that won 50-plus games each in a 3-year span with no top 75 players on his team as teammates. Like Magic Johnson had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was the league MVP the year Magic won his first title. Then in his back 3 titles for Magic Johnson, he still had Kareem, and he had a top 50 player as James Worthy as his third option. They even had guys Bob McAdoo on one of those championship teams. Bob McAdoo as like a 4th or 5th option at the time he was like 30 or 31 years old. He's a league MVP. He's a top 75 player as his 4th option on one of those title teams. Larry Bird.
Skap, hold on for a second. Did you just argue that Bob McAdoo has the same number of MVPs as Kobe? Is that what you just said? Did you say Bob McAdoo has the same number of MVPs as Kobe?
That's right, Jason. So tell me, who won multiple championships consecutively without a single top 75 player? Larry Bird had 2 top 50 players to win his. I could do this all day because everyone has substantially better help than Kobe Bryant had, and Bryant was playing harder competition. So I'm applying his individual dominance to the way he impacted his teams and the way he won. When you factor it all in, there's no way. Get out of here with barely top 10. It is absolute outrageous blasphemy to sit here and say 11th, 12th. He's 4th all time in scoring. In the regular season, postseason, he's been to 7 titles and won 5 of them. Just stop this nonsense.
So I sort of hate this argument, and I get drawn into it sometimes, but nonetheless, we're going to have it. I think what's important as adults is to remember that if you say, well, this guy didn't have great players on his team, you could make the case that that was an exterior variable. But could it also not be that it's an interior variable, and that person didn't make great players on his team? Again, basketball cannot be separated into I have to play you, Jason, one-on-one and go around you. There's this whole thing happening around. So would Kevin McHale have been as great without Larry Bird? Did Larry Bird probably not teach him how to be great along the way? Did Magic Johnson turn James Worthy into a great basketball player? Probably. I was on a Phoenix Suns team that was really, really good. Steve Nash made Amari Stoudemire a much, much better basketball player. The same was true for Sean Marion. The same was true for Joe Johnson, who went on to make a ton of money but never really dominated a team exactly. However, on that team, those three guys got so much better because of Steve Nash. So I think we talked yesterday about this book I love, Good to Great, about leadership, about team culture. This is where I have to pull rank a little bit just in terms of seeing this from the inside. There are ways that great players make other great players because basketball is so intertwined. It's not quite like baseball where you just sign up and your job is hit the baseball and then it's isolated from all of the other stuff that happens on the field. In basketball and in the locker room, it's all tied together. And what I saw was that a guy like Kobe Bryant, who most players didn't really like, couldn't energize people around him. But the great players, the Kevin Garnetts of the world, who I would defend to the death as far as his ability to lead people, to connect people, he made everyone around him better. Is Ray Allen really that great of a basketball player? Maybe, great shooter, right? But he got so good because he was on a team with Kevin Garnett, which makes this conversation to me interesting around leadership, around team, around how companies get built. That's the reality of basketball, is that it's so nuanced and interesting, and that's what always fascinated me about playing it. Was it's not as simple as, if you watch me play one-on-one in Minnesota Timberwolves training camp, you'd think that guy will never play in the NBA, right? But I could figure out ways around that in terms of the little things that went into that. And I think that was true of the really great ones too, that they were able to match a high level of talent with a high level of emotional intelligence and then build something that was different. That's what made Magic Johnson great. That's what made Larry Bird great. That's what made Michael Jordan great. And that to me is a much more adult and interesting argument.
And
Paul, riddle me this.
Skap, I got a bias against Kobe.
Paul, riddle me this, if you will, though. Pau Gasol played 7 NBA seasons in Memphis before coming over to play with the LA Lakers. He made 1 All-Star appearance in seven seasons. He made no All-NBA selections. He won 0 playoff games in his entire career for the first 7 years of his career. When you look at, Pau Gasol played 17, 18 years in the NBA. When you look at the career of time that happened after he left LA, he made 1 All-Star team only. Why was it in like that little snapshot of time, like 4 years when he was playing with Kobe Bryant in LA, why was it that he was making All-Star teams every year, he was being All-NBA designated, and now he's in the Hall of Fame? Could it be maybe because Kobe Bryant uplifted him and made him better and found a way to take that one fringe All-Star to 3 consecutive NBA Finals series, win back-to-back against a gauntlet of opponents? Look at the Western Conference that Kobe Bryant was going through at that span of time. And when he got out of it...
Did we lose, Skap?
I'm here.
Great point. Go ahead.
So I will piggyback and say that I don't think anybody is arguing that Kobe Bryant is bad at basketball. I once got into some weird internet trouble because I wrote a piece when I was writing for ESPN about music calling the Beatles overrated. To my mind, because they're the most highly rated band of all time, it would be hard for them to not be overrated. So I think our argument is more around the outsized cultural impression of Kobe Bryant. So I would never say, I, Paul Shirley, am better at basketball than Kobe Bryant. That would be insane. Nor am I saying that Kobe Bryant doesn't belong in a he was great at basketball conversation. It's just that I think we live in a time that is so biased toward recency. We think in terms of what was the latest thing that flashed across my news feed. And it's interesting to me to look back at some of these people who came before and talk about like what was their actual impact, which we can never really know. We weren't around for Oscar Robertson. But to me, averaging a triple-double and dealing with the hardship of playing basketball in the 1950s is such a more interesting story than Kobe Bryant, who was kind of basically a facsimile of Michael Jordan, but without the personality.
I think both of you have made great points. I land on Kobe's a tiny bit overrated. He's not a top 5 all-time great player. which is no insult to him. There's been great NBA players. His death has elevated him. Where I really love Paul's point, and Skap, we're not going to get to LeBron James. I'm sorry, we run out of time. But a guy that I think is criminally underrated, and totally misunderstood, Isaiah Thomas. And you want to talk about someone elevating everybody around them and winning championships when Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, and Michael Jordan are all in the league, and he just won 2, never won an MVP. But when you want to talk about someone elevating a team, giving a team a personality and molding them into a championship team, obviously Isaiah's a friend of mine, so I have a bias, but I'm just speaking facts here. Skap, I appreciate you taking a break from your vacation. Tell your wife I said hello, and I won't bother you anymore on vacation because we're going on vacation as well. We're going to move on from here. Don't miss a second of Fearless. Hit that like button and subscribe to keep up with our latest content.